Hi, I'm Ken Love.
And I'm Jane Tai.
And together we make up
the Hawaii Master Food Preservers. What are we making today?
pickles.
What kind of pickles?
I was afraid you were going to ask that. Well, actually, I'm happy you were going to ask that. So we are going to make some good old-fashioned kosher-style dills. Because I love them. And then we're going to make Hawaii's favorite.
Pickled mango.
Yes, and then just for the heck of it, we're going to make some watermelon radish pickles, just because I love watermelon radishes. And we have 1 jar of this year's first crop of Mysore peaches. So pickled peaches are just amazing.
And yes, we can grow peaches here. Well,
Mysore peaches.
Mysore peaches.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So what do we need to do first?
Sanitize, glove, sanitize, wipe, and glove.
Okay, you sanitize, I'll wipe.
Okay, that's a deal. Okay, one of the first things we do with pickles, or cucumbers I should say, because they're not pickles yet, but they will be, is to cut the blossom end off. And that's where any bacteria would reside. So generally you want to cut off a tiny little amount, I mean paper thin, just to get rid of that. In case you're wondering why I'm doing this, it's because I am a lazy chef and I'm going to make some pickles. So you take your cut cucumbers, you throw them in your jar, and that's it. You wait. Thanks. See you next time.
Not quite.
Well, no. Okay. But actually, yeah, you can take a jar of pickles from the store that you've eaten them and use the juice. And it doesn't have to be cucumbers. It can be carrots, onions, broccoli, cauliflower. Brussels sprouts and old pickle vine for a week is great. So almost anything. And it's just a quick, easy trick. I threw in a couple cloves, extra cloves of garlic because I like pickled garlic, and a little more mustard seed. These are cakey cukes, and they're Persian cucumbers. The regular English style cucumbers won't really work for pickles. And we cannot grow pickling cucumbers too successfully in Hawaii. There's a couple people, like one of our students, Susan, who's grown some in a very controlled environment. And they were great. But to get half a dozen or pickling cucumbers, or hundreds of Persian cucumbers or cakey cukes, is a different story. So this works out really well. Another thing that people like to do with the Japanese cucumbers is this is a little Japanese cucumber press, and when the cucumbers are in there, it presses down and keeps them submerged. But the first part of doing the little Japanese cucumbers is to salt them, so just to leach out some of the water. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little salt in here. So we're just going to let that sit and finish it off later. So we went out and we picked a bunch of grape leaves, washed them. And with the grape leaves, that lets the tannins in the grape leaves help keep pickles crunchy. Okay, well, you can't have kosher-style dill pickles without dill. And we got a bunch of fresh dill here, which I just love the smell. I could just, make a dill sandwich.
We've washed them, and we've actually destemmed them, if you will. We just really want the fronds where all the flavor is, and they're actually being pat dry right now.
Now, when we do the mango pickles, we're going to use, this is a regular 5% vinegar, and for 2 years I've had shiso leaves in it. So the flavor, the color, everything's infused, and it smells really good. And I like the flavor of shiso or perilla leaf, so we're going to use this for the mango pickle. It's going to add a little separate dimension to it. And you got to have garlic, and we have mustard seeds. And I like a mix of black and yellow mustard seeds. Actually, there's black, yellow, white, and a whole bunch of in-between colors in India that they use. And so I really enjoy the pungency, I guess. How's that for a new word? Pungency of mustard seed. I love mustards too. And we have sugar, salt, and then you got
vinegar and water. Now.
And?
Oh, and then we have some Hawaiian chili peppers. And then we also have some habanero dried and serrano dried chili peppers. So these are both dried. We're going to crush them and add them to the brine. Now, whatever recipes you're using, we have sugar in here. A lot of recipes don't necessarily call for sugar, but it all depends on what ingredient you're going to be using. And we'll explain a little bit more about that. But the basic ingredients essentially is your vinegar, your salt, and again, make sure your vinegar is a 5%.
Or flavored 5%.
Or flavored 5%, as we have for the shiso vinegar as well.
A lot of people put lemon juice in vinegar, and they flavor it that way,
yeah.
Lemon peels. We're going to do a couple different things. We're going to make the kosher style dills into some jars, because I know people who want to eat them. And then we have our crock pot. And so we're going to take the bigger pickles into the water, and we'll get them out of the way now. We might as well just put them in here, because I can never get enough of these. Thank you. 2 more, or 3 more, 2.
2 more.
Yeah, and then and I'll tell you why we're going to put that. We're going to use those too, but we do it in layers generally. So with the jars, I'm just going to take one of these grape leaves in there, and it says you use a couple cloves of garlic that are cut in half to release more. 3, 4.
That's a lot of garlic.
You can never have enough. That's why I don't have problems with vampires. It says half a per jar, half a, yeah. And because I like this.
Are you going to crush those? These are dried chili peppers.
Yeah. Little Hawaiian chilies, and no, I wasn't really going to crush them. I do have to remember to leave you some room for the pickles by the time I put all that in. And we're going to put some more dill on top once you squeeze the pickles in. And we got a bigger jar, so I'm going to use two leaves. Yeah, that's another thing I should say, is that once you pour your bubbling or boiling brine on top of this, these pickles will shrivel up a little. Plus, we're going to can them for 10 minutes in a water bath so that they're shelf stable. Once we do that, then they will plump up again. So we're loading up the crock pot, and I'm doing it in layers with the grape leaves, and you can never have, you can see how much dill I'm throwing in there, how much garlic we're throwing in there, how much mustard seed we're throwing in there. Uh-oh, I know what that means. But we just want to be able to do this in layers. And so a lot of the Persian cucumbers are too large for the jars. I mean, there are obviously larger jars like this one, and we've done some in there. This comes with stone weights that will go on top of everything, and so that when we pour the brine in, the pickles and grape leaves and dill won't come up to the top. So now we got it, and then there's a little ring of water around here. So now we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay.
All right, we're ready then to do the hot packing or the
Yep.
boiling brine on both the fermentation crock as well as all of these, and we get the lids, jars, and everything, lids and rings ready to go.
Let's get cooking.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're ready to put this very hot, just rolling boiled vine. Smell that vinegar. Ugh. So basically what we're going to do is put the hot brine in here.
So the hot brine, we follow the recipe, is essentially, actually it was 3 cups of water, 3 cups of vinegar, and it was 6 tablespoons of salt. And that's all that's in here. It would be a 1/2 inch headspace. And just like you would do any other canning, make sure you wipe the threads and the brim to form a tight seal. And that's my ring, my lid, and then finger tight for the ring.
And remember, our lids were at 180 degrees, not boiled. The rings were boiled, but the lids themselves at over 180 is not good. So this is going to go in a cool, dark place for, I'll start eating it, testing it in about 2 weeks. And I'll take one out and test it. We're going to make some more brine and do the watermelon radish.
Now we're going to water bath these for 10 minutes, but we're going to wait until we actually have all of the...
Yeah, because everything's going to get water bath for 10 minutes. Normally I would say 20 minutes, but on cucumbers and on pickles, because there's a softening action with the vinegar and salt that's in there, so we don't want to get it too soft. And the Center for Home Food Preservation says that 10 minutes is okay. Got some watermelon radish.
So we have the watermelon radish, actually decided to have a little more variety and cut it 2 ways. One is more like a 1/4 inch sliced chunk for pickling.
Well, you were going to talk about that too, right?
And then Ken has actually used a mandolin to slice it super, super thin. This is going to pickle a lot faster, and it's a great condiment on the side for any kind of salads or whatever, and this one will take a little bit longer for the brine to infuse into the pickling. So, Ken, giving back the tops. When you go and you pick the radish out of your garden, you have the tops. If you wash them super, super, super clean, and I actually take a dedicated toothbrush and I scrub the soil that's out of here, you can actually pickle these as well too. They're really, really they're sharp, but when you pickle them, they have a nice sharp sweetness taste to them as well too. So this is actually going to go into one of our pickle jars as well. So for the radishes, we're actually going to removing the outer skin. And then Ken's got his mandolin there, and he's going to show you essentially what he's doing to those.
Does it come? Oh, it is coming out.
And again, like with any kinds of fruits or vegetables that you're going to be using, any imperfections or any kind of damage from pests or whatever, you need to inspect that, and you don't want that. For pickled mangoes, you'll see that these mangoes are green, but we do have varieties that are green. These are actually unripe. Because when you pickle mangoes, essentially it's going to get softer. You don't want mushy mangoes. You want something that's got a nice little crunch and all of the flavor infused into it, essentially. And so what I'm doing is I'm just taking the knife. You could use a peeler, but I prefer having a knife, and you saw that I just cut the bottom end off just so that there's stability. And I'm using the knife to peel.
She's doing that. I'm going to quickly show you. These are Mysore, sometimes called Ceylon peach, sometimes called local peach. And they are normally kind of bitter compared to mainland peaches off the tree. But it's what we got here, so we work with it. And so we're going to take some of our brine later and just basically pour it in that jar and process the jar, and then we'll have a jar of pickled peaches.
Okay, actually, Ken,
Yeah?
I'll peel it. How about you go ahead and cut the pieces?
Yeah, if you like that, we can do that.
Sure, that would be a little bit easier.
You sure?
Yep.
Easy for you to say.
So the pieces that he's cutting is, if you can see the size of it, again, it's 1/4 of an inch, more or less. And we're really talking, and it could be different shapes, sizes, whatever it is. Just keep in mind, it's really the brine that counts, and how long you keep it in the brine.
One thing to remember on unripe mangoes is the seed is softer, so it's sometimes not that easy to cut around the seed without getting parts of seed in the pieces that you're cutting. So, and yes, you can chew on the seed later if you want.
How long do you keep the mangoes in
See, and this
your
is
pickle?
a little bit, you'll have to eat that later. It doesn't, again, it doesn't really matter. I've had pickled mango that are 3 or 4 years old. This mango, I mean, the difference in color here is pretty striking, and this would turn to mush in no time in a pickling brine. So we used the unripe mangoes. We're about ready.
Yeah, we're ready to make the brines and start packing up the jars and
move forward.
yeah, and our jars are sanitized.
Yeah, jars are ready to go.
Okay, so
we
let's
got to cook the brine.
okay.
Okay.
See you in a bit.
We made a different brine, a sweeter brine for the watermelon radishes and the peaches.
Any brine that you make, just make sure you have enough acidity that's in there. The brine that I made is still using the ratio of 1 to 1, meaning 1 cup of vinegar to 1 cup of water, and then whatever else you add to it, so long as there's no dilution. So
Somebody put some pieces in my...
I couldn't put the covers back in, so we're just going to essentially fill up
Well, I'm
the
just
jars.
getting rid of all this stuff.
Okay, do you want to...
like that for
So-
you, and then I'm going to play with the watermelon radish and try to make it real pretty and around the...
So, unlike the pickles, we're actually not adding any herbs in here. We did add a little bit of sugar. The radishes by itself is actually
pretty sweet.
pretty sweet,
Yeah.
and so we decided just to sweeten it up, the brine, a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more flavor. Don't forget you need a 1/2 inch headspace, okay?
Yep. Okay, so what I forgot to show you before, we salted those pieces of cucumbers that were in here for the little Japanese pickle press. And now we have a little rice vinegar.
Would you rinse the salt out before?
Yeah,
Rinse the salt out.
Yeah, rinse
Okay.
the salt out. And just a tiny bit of sugar in there.
With rice vinegar.
Right.
And the rice vinegar is actually at 4.2%.
And then we're just going to lock that in there so it keeps the little pieces of cucumber under that.
And then we'll go in the refrigerator.
Yep. If we
Okay.
don't leave it under here by mistake.
All right, so now,
Oh, this one. And the next little thing we're going to do is going to take our little peaches that we, Mysore peaches. And we're just going to we're going to use the same brine for the peach.
keep 1/2 inch headspace for everything.
And this was just boiling, so. this tonight. I don't want to wait.
So you have 1 jar of peach and then the watermelon icon. Again, it's a basic same recipe of a 1-to-1 ratio of vinegar to water. We added a little bit of sugar to it, and pretty much that's
Plus
it.
we got the chunks and
Yeah, and this will also be water bath for 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Okay, so ready to do the one that we've been all waiting for.
Now let's keep them waiting. We'll do the mango pickles now, I promise.
Or pickled mangoes.
So one of the things that we do, we're gonna stuff the jars with the sliced green mangoes. And
Still need a 1/2 inch headspace.
yep.
I'm gonna let them do the green ones.
And again, you want to get them in tight so that they don't float. We're gonna make 1 big jar of pickled mangoes that I can put in the fridge and gorge. So we don't use a lot of the food coloring or flavoring powders that you can buy at the store for this. Our recipe is a little different because we do want to make them shelf stable.
So I'm trying to take more of the golden yellow ones because keeping them together because I know that they're going to be a little mushier after we finish canning them. So trying to keep them sort of together, and yet still keep a 1/2 inch headspace up there.
I may have to make a green mango salad tonight.
That'll be good.
Be kind of hard to julienne these pieces, but and different varieties. You know, we have about 200 varieties of mangoes in Hawaii, and different varieties will have different amounts of sap. And you get some that, like Kensington, you go to pick it, and that'll stand back because it'll squirt out at you. The sap. It's almost like it's pressurized in there.
Okay.
Get that.
Your 1/2 inch, just a tad more. Okay.
You have to get the air bubbles.
Yeah, air bubbles, and then also I'm going to need to press it down.
Oh, that's got a little too much in it.
Brown wise?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's refrigerator.
Refrigerator.
And
Or
for
maybe
water
this one I
bathing,
should call dinner.
that's a lot for dinner. And water bathing for 10 minutes.
10 minutes. I feel like I've been pickled.
Yes, we are preserved and
Yeah,
preserving.
well, you're well preserved. I'm just over
You're
the
just
hill.
pickled.
I'm just pickled. Our kosher style dills, the recipe came from one of our favorite books, really. So Easy to Preserve, which you can get from the University of Georgia. And these are tested recipes by the
National Center for Home Food Preservation.
Thanks. So the other recipes are tried and true by us, based on recipes from here. So we know the 10-minute timing, for example, is tested. Okay, so we're pickled.
We are pickled, and I don't know about you, but I'm going to eat this
Tonight?
Well, no, I'm going to eat this tonight. I'm
eating this tonight. You eat that one, and we can share this one.
We could share this one. How's
Okay.
that? So
We got it?
you got it, and then these are all the various pickle processes. See you next time.
Ciao.